And good afternoon. I am WWL Louisiana Chief Meteorologist Chris Franklin, and just kind of want to get into a fairly significant severe weather event that we're expecting during the day on Wednesday for the entirety of our area, and a rare level 4 threat of severe weather. You may have seen this graphic posted a number of times earlier this morning when the Storm Prediction Center upgraded the North Shore, really all of the Florida parishes, Mississippi counties, and into central Mississippi for a level 4. This is not something we see very frequently in the deep south, especially right along the Gulf Coast. I shouldn't say not the deep south, because this is a little bit more of a common occurrence during the severe weather seasons to our north, but usually not this far south. And this is kind of when we tend to see some of those stronger, long-tracked, longer duration, stronger tornadoes. Not to say we will, and it's impossible to say exactly where those potentially could be, but just know that much of our area is under that threat during the day tomorrow. So we wanted to kind of join you on social media so we can get a little bit more in depth into the discussion as to why that may be, and maybe some of the areas that may be better, more at risk, and also a better idea of the timing of these storms for Wednesday. We're getting a better idea, but really until the system develops late tonight and early tomorrow morning, and I'm talking during the pre-dawn hours where we have a best bet as to know when these storms will be moving through. So I want to start with the risk of severe storms. Now, we've seen that risk elevated, not for the metro area. The metro area is still under the level 3, although we did see it shift a little bit more farther to the south, but does include the North Shore, the level 4 threat, and much of southern Mississippi. Now, this is for an area of more scattered or more widespread severe weather, more indicative of what could be a severe weather outbreak, where we anticipate more tornadic activity, although we are still under a very high risk even in the metro area, and both sides of the lake are under that hatched area, which highlights the threat of stronger, long duration tornadoes. So we kind of want to dive into why that may be and what the models are looking at. First, though, there is nothing on radar right now. We are quiet for the rest of this afternoon and evening. We're not anticipating anything through the afternoon, evening, and even overnight hours. So you can go to bed tonight without any real cause for concern. This is not going to be an issue that will be during the early morning hours. This won't really get started until the early morning after dawn and going toward the lunch hour. During that time frame, we'll likely see more scattered showers and thunderstorms, although the risk of severe weather will still be there. Line of storms not really moving through our western parishes until maybe toward 11 to noon, and we did see kind of that time frame shift a little bit later, where we may be dealing with this during the afternoon hours. At one point it looked like it may be clearing the area by 2, may still be dealing with it at 2 p.m. With that being said, a few hours one way or the other is still very much in jeopardy, or I shouldn't say in jeopardy, but still very much on the table until this system develops, which has not done so yet. We'll kind of show you the model breakdown in a moment. But before we get to that, let's just take a look at our high resolution model. Again, quiet through the evening and night. Anything will stay well off to our west. Then as we get during the early morning hours, the showers that we should see here, meant to put a pause point in there, so let's start this at like 7 a.m. Scattered showers at best. That's what we're looking at. But there will be some of the ingredients necessary for these to become strong to severe. Don't think we would really see much in the way of widespread severe weather during this time, but certainly the possibility is there. As we continue through the early morning hours, we see kind of more complex clusters of storms shifting up toward the North Shore. And here is kind of the leading edge. And it's actually interesting. It looks like it has sped up again from the earlier morning. The high resolution model is actually a model that is run every hour. So every couple of hours, really every hour, we do get new data, but every few hours we get the more complete model output. And this is actually updated. This had been showing more of these line of storms setting up over Baton Rouge, maybe at around the 11 to noon hour. So it is kind of sped up again. So it may be that before the lunch hour, we have kind of the leading edge of these storms already making its way through the river parishes, starting to approach Tangipahoa Parish and down toward the bayou parishes. So let's kind of put a pause there at just around 11 o'clock. continuing this early. The line is still pushing through very rapidly, and by the noon hour, you almost see some kind of development along that boundary now, moving through the North Shore into Mississippi, does include the metro area, and maybe kind of clearing out from down the bayou. Let's put this further into motion and kind of show you what we're looking at into the early afternoon hours. Now, this model actually is kind of backed off. It's amazing what the models do as new data is entered in. This does still have some scattered showers, kind of leaning more toward the scattered shower chance into the afternoon. Don't think these would really have much of the severe threat any longer. Really, the severe threat is going to be out ahead of and along the line of storms. Anything behind, while it may still have some heavier downpours, doesn't look like we're really going to see the severe threat as much any longer during the afternoon. May still have some rainfall around even after 5 o'clock. It's actually kind of interesting. I looked at this when I first came into the station about 1:30, and it was kind of completely different. It had it later in the day and far more rain during the afternoon. So the HRRR, we call that the high resolution rapid refresh model, is now coming a little bit more in line with some of the other models that I'll show you in just a moment are saying. So as far as timing goes, kind of breaking that down right now, I know sometimes looking at these models, it's kind of complicated. We're looking at probably during the 7 a.m. to say 11 more scattered showers in nature. Not that they can't become strong to severe, but I think that would be more isolated severe storms. But strong winds, so severe thunderstorm warnings may be issued, and we cannot rule out the probably numerous tornado warnings being issued. I'll show you why the environment is very much conducive tomorrow for supercell formation, rotating type thunderstorms, which can easily drop tornadoes. So during the morning time frame, 7 to 11, probably more scattered in nature. After 11, it looks like more of a solid line of storms racing through the area, and by about 1 or 2 p.m., most of the storms are gone. We'll take a look at some of the other models coming up in just a moment. So kind of breaking down the timing for you, that's the best bet. And as I've been putting this presentation together, that looked to be what a lot of the models are saying. What we're going to be watching during the evening and nighttime hours tomorrow is going to be the development of a system more over central Texas. Not there yet, but it'll be kind of in this vicinity after midnight. We'll be watching for the development of a system. It'll be that area that will have a much better idea of the timing, because if it starts lining up with the timing of the models, then we'll be able to nail down the time of when that line should start to move through South Louisiana and southern Mississippi, and a better idea of when we'll start to see some of those scattered showers developing. This is all associated with a very vigorous upper level low. You can kind of see the motion in the atmosphere, which is helping to initiate these thunderstorms and severe weather at that over central Texas. But here is the base of this upper low. What we often see more often than not for our severe weather scenarios is that these type of big upper troughs or upper lows, they tend to follow a trajectory which kind of takes them into West Texas, but they almost immediately start ejecting over Oklahoma, Missouri, and moving away from us. So we tend to be kind of on the tail end of these type of severe weather outbreaks. That is not going to be the case. This upper low is expected, as you see it in northern Mexico, to remain at a more southern trajectory. So keeping that upper energy farther south and closer to South Louisiana. Usually we would see these kind of upper features already over Oklahoma at this point. So while we do have a threat for severe weather, the greater risk tends to be farther to our north. When these follow a more southern trajectory, it does place us a little bit more in the bullseye. What we're looking at here is the upper pattern, but also the energy necessary or the ingredients necessary for tornadic storms. As we get into the early morning hours, we start to see those ingredients coming together across South Louisiana. But in the early morning hours, that threat level is very low. So not zero, but low. That's why I'm expecting during the morning hours any scattered storms, while there will be a kind of medium level threat for those to become tornadic. Doesn't look like it would be widespread. Now, as this low gets a little bit closer to us, that threat level increases and we kind of go into the high range of tornadic storms. But also notice where the greater threat is during this early afternoon time frame. On the North Shore, southwestern Mississippi. I don't want to say that we're not going to see anything on the South Shore. That is not the case. But it looks like if we were to see more numerous warnings issued for tornadic type storms, that appears to be more of a focus on the North Shore where we have that level 4 threat. This upper low will start to finally make a kind of path northward as we head into the evening hours. So after about 5 o'clock, again, even if we have some thunderstorms around, the risk of those becoming tornadic is lifting to the north and east of us, and so the threat level is gone. Again, any real severe storms is going to be ahead of and right along that line. This is looking at it's called Energy Helicity Index. Basically, what it's showing you is the environment necessary to produce supercell tornadoes, supercell thunderstorms, rotating thunderstorms. Again, that risk is low during the day today. It's there, but it's very, very low. As we get into early tomorrow morning, we start to see that inching closer to southeast Louisiana and kind of peaking during the mid-afternoon. What I'm also showing you, and I'm kind of playing around with this graphic here to see if it's understandable, I'm looking at the surface winds and the winds as you go higher into the atmosphere. Our surface-based winds are white. At this point in the afternoon, we've got a southeasterly wind. Aloft in the more mid and upper levels of the atmosphere, we're going to have this almost west-south or south-southwesterly, southwesterly wind. When the winds are coming at different directions like that, so you've got the surface-based winds coming out of the almost southeast, and aloft they're coming out of the southwest. That is called shear, wind shear. There's two different types of wind shear: directional shear when it's different directions, and there's also speed shear as winds increase in strength as you go up in the atmosphere. Directional shear is what we look for to get rotation. So you've got the low-level winds coming like this, and as you go higher into the atmosphere, those wind directions turn. This would induce rotation in the thunderstorms, and this is what we're looking at as the potential for not necessarily tornadoes, but supercell thunderstorms, which in turn could develop tornadoes. So that risk does look fairly high across southeast Louisiana during those late morning, early afternoon, kind of lunch hour time frame. As we get toward the afternoon, early evening, that threat is really gone. So again, any additional thunderstorms during the afternoon hours, again, beyond the line of storms rolling through, the threat of any severe weather would have already diminished. So that's why it looks like it's going to be kind of in that 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. time frame, the greatest threat of severe weather. Here's one of our other high resolution models, and kind of again indicating I'm wanting to highlight where that system will be generated and when we start to get a better picture of the timing. Around 5 a.m. based on the model, if we see this complex of storms not quite into Louisiana just yet, so a couple of hours before sunrise, we'll know the timing is probably set. So Alexa Trishler will be on tomorrow morning. You'll be watching her as we're kind of watching these storms with a lot of folks maybe getting their day started. Storms are not here yet, at least the complex of storms, but if they're in the East Texas time frame, we'll know the timing looks to be about the same as what we're expecting right now. So here's what we're looking at: scattered showers out ahead through the morning hours. More of a, maybe not necessarily line, as this model kind of has almost a complex, we call an MCS, a mesoscale convective system kind of moving our way. That would bring in the threat of severe weather. Again, here's the time frame: 11:30 during the noon to 1 p.m. That's when we're looking at most of our severe storms rolling through. And then during the afternoon hours, that threat is gone, at least in terms of severe weather. May still get some lingering showers, but the severe risk would be gone at that time. So that is the reasoning for the kind of heightened level of severe weather across the Gulf Coast, with maybe more of an emphasis now on the North Shore. But as I've said, a level 3 threat is nothing to sneeze at, especially being under hatched area for the metro area. This is something that is still very much an evolving situation. We've started to see more of the models come into maybe slightly better agreement with the timing. So definitely after daybreak, we'll likely have some scattered showers around school drop-off and heading into work time frame. But I think the severe threat in the early morning hours should be limited. Most of our storms during the lunch hour, hopefully kind of wrapping up as kids are going home from school, and then through the rest of the afternoon, evening, other than maybe some lingering scattered showers, the severe threat would be diminished. So some of the hopefully that kind of explained better why we're looking at the higher risk of severe weather and kind of where we may see more of those severe storms, and also a better idea of the timing of tomorrow's severe weather. We'll have a more, well, not really a more detailed look, but we're going to have another look at these storms as they potentially develop during the overnight hours on our evening newscast coming up at 5, 6, and 10. For now, I'm Chief Meteorologist Chris Franklin.